Hi, I'm naturopath Dr. Julian Neal. Today, I want to talk about something that touches everyone at some point in their lives. When the body keeps showing us the same aches, fatigue, or recurring patterns, what is it really trying to tell us? In naturopathic medicine, we view the body as a messenger, an intelligent, self-healing organism that is constantly communicating with us. And it speaks in a language, the language of symptoms. Pain, fatigue, tension, digestive upset, skin eruptions, all of these are not random events. They're actually messages from deeper layers of our being that are trying to get our attention. But the challenge is that in modern medicine and in our culture, we've learned to silence these messages rather than interpret them. We reach for the painkillers or caffeine or distraction, anything that numbs the signal without actually addressing its source. And so the problem is that when we quiet the body's voice without listening, it actually speaks louder. And over time, what begins as discomfort eventually becomes disease. So let's explore how this happens across the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual planes. Because in my experience, true healing only occurs when we recognize that these layers are not separate, but actually deeply interwoven. The physical body is the first messenger. The physical body is the most tangible part of our being, and it's often the first that gets our attention. So when we ignore the stress, emotional strain, or spiritual disconnection, the body steps in to send a signal. Think of adrenal fatigue as an example. When we live in a constant state of stress, always on, always producing, always in motion, the adrenal glands overproduce cortisol and adrenaline to keep us going. And for a while this works. We actually feel alert, driven, sometimes even invincible. But eventually those glands become depleted and cortisol levels drop, our energy plummets, sleep becomes disturbed, and often brain fog sets in. The body is actually saying, you can't keep running like this. You need rest, rhythm, and nourishment. And the solution isn't just taking supplements, though I love those. It's actually rebuilding the foundation, consistent sleep, whole food nutrition, adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha, rhodiola, or holy basil, and most importantly, creating a space for calm in the nervous system. Having joint pain is another good example. Physically, it can reflect inflammation or wear and tear in the joint. But emotionally, it often corresponds to rigidity, having difficulty moving forward, carrying old burdens, or resisting change. The knees, for instance, relate symbolically to humility and flexibility. So when someone has knee pain, I often ask them, where are you resisting bending in your life? What situations are you struggling to yield to? Having nerve pain like sciatica or tingling in the hands and feet can mirror overstimulation of the nervous system, having too much input, too much stress, and too little grounding. In yogic science, nerve pain often relates to blocked energy flow or a disconnection between the physical and subtle bodies. Healing involves both physical treatment, anti-inflammatory herbs, magnesium, B vitamins, and energetic grounding through things like breath work, meditation, and spending additional time in nature. The emotional body becomes actually the hidden current beneath symptoms. Every unexpressed emotion lives somewhere in the body. Grief often settles in the lungs or the chest. Anger accumulates in the liver. Fear lodges in the kidneys, and worry and overthinking weaken the spleen and the digestive system. And if we don't express or process these emotions, the body will do it for us through tension, tightness, or illness. So, for example, chronic upper back pain may not just be a posture issue. It can represent the weight of unacknowledged responsibility or emotional burdens that we are carrying. This is why emotional hygiene in my world is just as important as physical hygiene. Practices like journaling, getting therapy, or even gentle crying on your own are ways of detoxifying emotionally. In traditional systems like the Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine, emotional flow is key to physical vitality because emotion is emotion, energy in motion. And when energy gets stuck, often disease follows. The mental body represents the power of belief and perception. Our thoughts are actually biochemical events. Every repeated thought pattern, fear, guilt, perfectionism, or self-criticism creates hormonal and neurological imprints that shape our physiology. So when someone tells me they constantly feel exhausted despite normal lab work, I often look beyond their diet or thyroid levels and I ask, what's draining you emotionally or mentally? Sometimes the fatigue comes from chronic internal conflict, trying to please everyone or ignoring intuition or living in a way that contradicts the heart's truth. And this is where mindfulness and awareness comes in. By observing our mental patterns without judgment, we can begin to loosen their grip. Practices like meditation and conscious breathing help deactivate the limbic system and re-engage the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for calm decision making. And over time, we move from reaction to response and from chaos to clarity. The spiritual body is returning to alignment. At its deepest levels, recurring symptoms often signal disconnection from the self, from our inner guidance, our purpose, or our soul alignment. In my clinical experience, when someone feels spiritually lost, the body begins to mirror that disorientation. A patient once told me, "My body feels like it's shutting down." She had chronic fatigue, digestive issues, and joint pain. And as we worked together, it became clear she was living a life that no longer resonated with her spirit, pushing herself in a career that drained her passion. And when she began realigning with her true calling, all her symptoms gradually eased. The spiritual body thrives on meaning, connection, and love. Prayer, meditation, time in nature, service, or creativity, these aren't luxuries. They're vital nutrients for the soul. And when we nourish that level, the physical body often follows suit. So, how can we integrate all these things? The body doesn't betray us. It teaches us. It mirrors what we haven't yet brought into awareness. A tension headache might say, "You're overthinking." Digestive upset might whisper to you, "You're having trouble processing life." Chronic fatigue might mean you're giving more than you are receiving. Healing begins with listening. Instead of asking, "How do I make these stop?" we first try asking, "What is this trying to show me? What's it doing for me?" And from there, we apply naturopathic principles, identifying and removing the cause, whether it's toxic thoughts, habits, or environments. Supporting the body's innate healing ability through good nourishment, hydration, movement, and rest. And treating the whole person, body, mind, and spirit, as just one integrated system. And teaching prevention and awareness, empowering yourself through understanding, not fear. Finally, what is the return to wholeness? Well, True healing is not about fighting the body, it's about befriending it. Every ache, every wave of fatigue, every recurring pattern is a call home to balance, authenticity, and awareness. And when we slow down and listen, we begin to hear what's underneath the noise. The body says, I am tired. The heart says, I am unheard. And the spirit says, I am ready to awaken. And when we honor those messages, disease begins to dissolve because the energy that was locked in suppression begins to move again. Healing isn't always about adding something new. It's often about removing what's in the way of the body's natural intelligence. So the next time your body speaks, remember, pause, breathe, ask with compassion, what are you trying to tell me? And listen deeply, because the body never lies. It's always leading us back to wholeness.